Welcome to Keaty Academy. I'm Jim Keaty, and today we're going to break down what it takes to be successful in real estate. And if you're coming into the real estate industry for the first time, or maybe you've been in it for a few years and you haven't experienced the success that you really want, I'm going to break down exactly what it takes to be successful in real estate today. What is real estate really about? What is the job take? Like, most people don't understand, when they get into real estate, what the job is really all about, including myself. When I got into real estate, I just didn't understand what I really had to do on a day-to-day basis to be successful in real estate. So, today I'm going to break down exactly what the job is, and this might surprise you, and it might even scare some people. The level of accountability and what the job really is may not be exactly what you're thinking. I have a lot of people who are getting the real estate business who, are watching HGTV. They like houses. They think, they're passionate about architecture and houses, and that's all great. But that's not really what it takes to be really successful and to be a top producer in today's world. Luckily, over 5,000 sales and hundreds of thousands of calls and appointments, we have figured out exactly what it takes to be successful in real estate. Nothing has really changed since the early 1900s, since realtors began doing business. So we recognize the fact that, in order to make money in real estate, you've got to have a closing. And that's no secret, right? So you got to have a closing. But in order to get a closing, what does it take? Well, you're probably going to have, or you definitely are going to have under contracts, right? And not every contract is going to close. So you're going to probably have to have multiple contracts to get to that one closing. What is it going to take to get to a contract? Well, you're going to have a client. Well, how do you get a client? Well, you have to have an appointment. Well, how do you get an appointment? Well, you have to engage with somebody in a real estate conversation, and in order to do that, most of the times you either have to get in front of somebody or you have to get on the phone. And even when you get in front of somebody face to face, that always leads up to a follow-up, because people, when you first meet somebody and you start having a real estate conversation, they're not going to take out their credit card and run it and buy a house at that time. So what's going to happen? Well, you're going to have to reach back out to them, follow up with them. So in order to get to that closing, you've got to have a call or an engagement that leads to a conversation. That conversation is going to lead to an appointment. That appointment hopefully will lead to a client. And that client, once you start showing houses or it's a listing presentation, will lead to a contract. And that contract will lead to the closing. So the fundamentals of real estate have not changed. What has changed? Well, technology has changed tremendously. So nowadays, the public and your sphere of influence, your past clients, they're getting bombarded with messages, emails, and advertising from every single direction. So the frequency of touches that it requires to stay top of mind awareness with your customers is much higher. So we have to have systems in place, and we have to leverage the technology in order to stay in front of your customers more than Zillow or Realtor.com. There has been over $16 billion spent last year by big companies in order to separate you from your client. So what they're doing is they are trying to grab your sphere of influence, the people that your past clients, into their funnel, and then they're selling it back to other realtors. So in order to combat that, we've got to market upstream. We want to be the realtor before they even know that they need a realtor, because once they know they need a realtor, or once they start looking for houses, you're going to have people like Keaty Real Estate who spends tens of thousands of dollars to try to capture them, grab them, put them into our funnel, so that now we can market to them and be there and be the person that they're going to call when they make that decision. I have lots of conversations with people who want to get into real estate, and to be quite honest with you, most people are getting into it for the wrong reasons. If you think you're going to get into real estate and you like the idea of you're going to have a flexible schedule, you'll be able to move things around during the day, go show a few houses occasionally, and make the big bucks. Unfortunately, that's not how this works. And I was one of those people who thought that. I actually started it up in Colorado, and when I got into real estate, I got out of college. I said, this sounds like a great job. You know, I could exercise in the middle of the day. I could go skiing anytime I want, work from my car, and have this flexible schedule. That didn't work. And it wasn't until I went completely broke until I realized I had to do something drastic and do the things that give me the power, like the top producers in our area. So I started to really research and study what are the best agents in the country doing to make the money. And you know, I was a little surprised, and I wasn't really happy with what I found, because it's work. The secret to success in real estate is work, and it's a lot of work. So, you know, don't think that you're going to have a part-time job and you're going to get your real estate license and you're going to be able to be a top producer, because that's just not the case. There's no shortcut from the fundamentals. You can't go from a conversation to closing. You have to bridge the gap. You have to follow the activities that are going to lead to the closing. So, you know, luckily, we understand what it takes. And today, I'm going to break down exactly what you have to do and what that work looks like in order to be extremely successful. The first place we want to start is, you know, really, what's your why? Why are you getting into this business? Because that is what's going to drive your business. Everything has to do with your motivation. You know, unfortunately, you know, when you become a real estate agent, most of us are 1031 employees. So we're self-employed, and none of us are really good bosses to ourselves. You know, we will work harder for somebody else than we will ourselves. But if you know the key performance indicators, the KPIs, if you know those lead indicators that are going to lead you to make the money that you want to make, and you have a strong enough why, then anyone can do it. We all have the potential to make the money. However, you've got to have the technology, you got to have the knowledge, and you've got to track your data, just like any other real business. And so, you know, first thing is, you know, I hear a lot of agents say, well, I might say, well, look, Tommy, how much do you want to make in real estate? And they'll say, you know, something like, I want to make $100,000. And that's great. But the next question is, well, how many closings is that? You know, 95% of the time when I ask that question, most agents have no clue. So today we're going to start with that. If you want to make $100,000, or if you want to make $50,000 in the first 12 months, all it is you got to figure out what is that going to take so that you can have that goal in mind, and that is what you do every single day. The things that gives you the power so that you can spend the time with the people you want to spend time with and work when you want to work. But if you don't do those, the key performance indicators, or the activities that lead to the appointments, that lead to the contracts, that lead ultimately to the closings, you're not going to be successful. And so let's start with that. So let's start with, let's say you want to make $50,000, okay? What does that mean, $50,000? How many closings is that going to take? Let's say, you know, in Lafayette, where we are, our average price is closer to $225,000, but I'm going to use $200,000 because I want to be conservative. Okay, this is our average price. If your average commission, if you want to get paid 3%, and that's what you charge, 3%, you know, is what you're looking for on average on every sale. So when you do 3% of 200,000, how much is that? Well, that's $6,000, okay? So that is the commission you make on average. Now, you have a broker, and if you're on a 50-50 split, that means you're going to net $3,000 per transaction on average. So that's where we're going to start. So if you want to make $50,000, how many transactions is that? You can take out your calculator, but I'm going to tell you it's going to equal 16.666. Well, we're going to round up because we want to be conservative, so we're going to go ahead and do 17 closings. So that is how many closings you're going to need in order to make $50,000. So the next step is, though, how do you get to 17 closings? There's a few truths that you have to understand in real estate, and you would only understand this if you've actually tracked your business and you know exactly what it takes. So the first step is what I want to bring up, and I've learned over the years with over 5,000 transactions, $1 billion in sales. What we've learned is that, you know, our office, okay, and we have over 50 agents, we know for a fact that in order to get to a closing, if I took all of the appointments that we went on and divided it by the actual closings that we had, on average, we're going to be at a 40% appointment to spoke to. Now, this is our average, and this includes new agents, agents that have been in the business for a few years, and also agents who've been in the business for over a decade. This number changes. So when you first get into real estate, or when you first tracking your data, you're going to find that, you know, you might go on 10 appointments this month and not have any closings because our closings don't happen for another 35, 45 days. So what is your appointment to close ratio? Well, it's 0. And when you're a new agent, you've got to stack those appointments in your favor. Appointments are the currency of top producers. That is how top producers make money. So appointments is one of our main key performance indicators. Now, if you've been in the business a while, typically after a 24-month period, you're going to start to get close to this 40% appointment to spoke to rate, because most of the closings that we're having today come from appointments that we've had 2 years ago, sometimes 3 years ago, and there are some appointments that we had last month that are closing now, but the majority of those closings that we're having today are from encounters and conversations and appointments that we've had over the last 12 months. So, as a new agent, we're going to use an appointment to spoke to rate so that we're conservative and we can tell you exactly what you're going to make, and we're going to use a 25% appointment to closing. So what does it take to get an appointment? Well, like I said before, you've got to actually have a conversation with somebody. So how many conversations does it take to get to an appointment? So that's the next thing we want to look at. And after hundreds of thousands of calls that we've made, we know that 5% of the conversations that we have are going to set an appointment, which is out of every 100 people we have a conversation with, which is either friends or family, open house people, for sale by owners, expireds, even internet leads. It's about a 5% spoke to appointment ratio. Now, that is an average over all of our agents, right? So we've got to actually take that into consideration, because as a new agent, when you first start tracking your data, your conversations, a lot of the appointments that we're going on today are not from conversations that we had today. They're from conversations that we started last year, and we've built rapport over the phone, or maybe it's a sphere of influence and they weren't ready to buy. That's the upstream marketing that we're doing, and we're trying to get them and capture them before they're ready to buy. So when you're handling your business like that and you're building your pipeline, you're actually gonna have better results after you've been in the business over 12 months, because after 12 months, you're going to have more conversations that you've already had, and then those appointments are going to come easier. So for your first 12 months in the business, we're going to use, instead of 5%, we're going to use 2.5%. That's going to be spoke to appointment. Okay? Now, what we need to know is, okay, well, how many times do you have to put yourself in front of somebody or call somebody in order to get to a conversation? Well, I can tell you this is one stat that doesn't really change unless your data set changes. But if you call 100 of your friends and family today and you have the right phone numbers, on average, you're going to talk to about 25% of those. So out of 100 people you call, only 25% of them will answer, or 25 of them will answer, which means 75 of them are not going to answer because they're either in a meeting, at work, at dinner, doing something else. So that is a pretty universal number. I don't think you're going to change that. So you're at a 25% call to spoke to. Okay, so now if you know these numbers right here, now you can just figure out, okay, well, if I want to make $50,000 and I know that it's going to take 17 closings in order to do that, and my call to spoke to ratio is 25%, 2.5% of the people I talk to are going to actually set an appointment for my first 12 months. By the way, that's going to increase the longer you're in business. Not only are you getting better on the phone, but you're also building that pipeline of business. And that's why it's so important to stack it up those first 90 days when you get into the business. And then 25% of the appointments you go on your first 12 months on average are going to actually close. So this is math, and we can figure out exactly what it's going to take. And here's how we do that. As you can see, if you want to make $50,000 in the first 12 months of your business, and we know the average sales price in your area is $200,000, and your average commission is 3%, that is $6,000. Once you take your split from your broker on a 50-50 split, that would leave you $3,000. So you take 50,000 divided by 3,000, that gives you 16.666. We always want to round up, so I'm going to say 17 closings. So, and if you have 17 closings and you know your appointment to close ratio is going to be around 25%, your spoke to appointment, which means every person you have a good real estate conversation with, and I'm going to get back to this, like what does that really mean? But that is a 2.5%, and it leads to an appointment. Then how many calls does it take to get people on the phone or to follow up with them? And that's 25%. You know, I've had a lot of people argue with me, Jim, well, it's a face-to-face business, and I agree, this is a face-to-face business. But people usually don't buy houses when you run into them at Albertsons or at the restaurant. You have to follow up with them. And when you follow up with them, 75% of the time they are not going to answer their phone, which means in order to talk to them, typically on average, you've got to call them 4 different times to get them on the phone and follow up them. So knowing what we know here, let's break this down a little bit further. If we know you want to make $50,000 and we know that equals 17 closings. And we know in order to get to 17 closings, you have some, certain truths that you have to follow. There's no way around these. You're going to, in order to get your first 12 months, you're at a 25% appointment to close, and you're at a 2.5% spoke to appointment, And we know that 25% of the people that you speak to, that you try to engage with, call to spoke to is true. So we know that 75% of the people that you reach out to, they're not going to actually answer the phone that first that phone call. Only 25% of the time will they. So by knowing this, we can work our way backwards so that I can tell you exactly within a very close range of exactly what it's going to take to hit your $50,000 in your first 12 months. So let's get started. So if we know in order to make $50,000 in your market, it's going to take 17 closings. How do you get there? How do you know how many appointments you need to go on? Well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 17 closings is the goal. That's our goal. And we're going to divide that by 0.25. And that's going to give you 17 divided by 0.25. And that's 68 appointments. So that's 68 appointments for the year. That's what you're shooting for, okay? And if you need to go on 68 appointments, and we know that it takes 100 calls to get 2.5 appointments your first year. Remember, this is going to increase right here as you build your pipeline. But if you want to go on 68 appointments, we divide that by 0.025, and that's going to give you how many conversations you're going to have. So 68 divided by 0.025, that equals 2720 conversations, spoke to. I call them spoke to. Okay, and then if you need 2720, so how many calls is that going to lead to? Better yet, how many calls do you have to make in order to talk to 2,720 people in a year? Well, you're going to take 2720. You're going to divide that by your spoke to rate, which is 25%. Now, 2720 divided by 0.25, and that's going to give you 10,880 calls. And so, this looks really big. These numbers are big numbers, but just like anything, you've got to break it down and find out what does this really mean for every day that you're working. We need to find out how much you're going to work this year. Just like any kind of business, you've got to have a goal. You got to know what it's going to take every day to do this. So let's start by how much are you going to work this year? I would say majority of my team takes off about 4 weeks a year. So if you're taking off 4 weeks a year, that means you've got 11 months of work, which is what? That equals 48 weeks. And how many days do you want to work per day? If that's 5 days per week. You've got to know these in order to find out what your daily numbers are going to be. So if I need to set up 68 appointments for the year, what does that mean for my actual months? How many do I need per month? Well, if I take 68 and I divide that by 11 months, that's going to give you 6.1 appointments per month. But I'm going to round up and we're going to do 7 appointments. So if you have 7 appointments per month, what does that equal per week? And if I did 7 divided by 4, that's 1.75. I'm going to round up again. So you need 2 appointments per week. That is your key performance indicator. Now, how are you going to get 2 appointments per week? Well, if you need to talk to 2,700 people for the year in order to set up 68 appointments, all we've got to do is divide that by 11. That gives you 247. I'm going to go ahead and round up, 250 conversations per month. Divide that by 4 weeks. That's 61 conversations per week. Let's go ahead and round that up to 62. And then we divide that by 5, and that's 12. I'm going to round up to let's go ahead and round up to 15. Let's get conservative. So 15 per day. And we can do the same thing with our calls. If we need to make 10,880 calls, and we divide that by 11 months, that's going to be 989. So we're going to do 1,000 per month. Divide that by 4. That gives you 247. We're going to do 250 calls per week. And you divide that by 5 days per week. And you're looking at 50 calls per week. So here's what we got. This is it. This is the whole plan. If you want to do business and you think getting into real estate is going to give you a flexible schedule so you can do what you want during the day, you can, and it does, but only if you hit these matrix. These are the key performance indicators. In order to make $50,000 for the year, you've got to start with the calls or the engagement. You've got to make 50 calls a day in order to talk to 15 people, in order to set 2 appointments up per week, in order to have 17 closings for the year. And that's, my friends, is how you are successful in real estate. And there's no other way around this. You have to work. You have to keep that in mind. Now, most people that get into the real estate business, when I show them this, and they look at, of course, I can make 50 calls. Well, who am I going to call? Well, you call anybody. You start with your family and friends, right? So your family and friends are the ones that you're going to call first. And those are the people who love you, trust you, and would do business with you. But they won't unless you are top of mind with them, okay? And so the first step is you start calling your family and friends. If you have a lead gen system, then you're going to start calling leads. If you don't have that, then you need to get one. And then the next thing you need to do is start calling for sale by owners. You can start calling expireds, short sale, pre-foreclosure homes. You can get lists for pre-foreclosure homes. But you need to call anybody. If you don't talk to anybody, then you're not going to get your appointments and you're not going to get to your 17 closings. The great news is here, guys, is this is how you do it. And if you stick to this and you focus on talking to 15 people a day, at least in our market with our ratios, you're going to actually make $50,000 your first year. Now the ratios get better and better after your first year. You got to realize your first 12 months in the business, you're already out 4 months with no closings. And this is why. It's not because there's competition or it takes a while for you to figure out what it is. From day one, if you know what it takes to get to a closing, you can start working on that. However, if you get in the real estate business and you join my team, we have almost a month of training before we technically turn you on to our lead gen and our systems. So that's 1 month. When we turn you on, our agents are calling an obscene amount of people as part of our requirements to be part of the team. Is you have to call over 1,000 people a week for 90 days, 5 days a week. That is actually 60 days of hard work where we're filling your pipeline with business. Now, when you do that, you're going to get a few of those are going to be now business. But let's say the first week you set up 10 appointments. Well, those 10 appointments, they have to start looking at houses. 1 or 2 of them might put one under contract in that first 3 weeks. Then you have about 35 to 45 days to closing. So that's 3 months. And so if you were to do anything in any business and you come in 4 months behind, obviously you're going to make less than somebody who's been in it over a year. Your second year, though, is where things start to get real fun and when you can start to realize the hard work that you're putting into it. And that's what it is. It's hard work to stay focused on this. So after the first 12 months, you start building a pipeline. Now your second year is your first year where you have 12 actual months, or in this case, 11 months of work that you're actually going to work and have closing. So you can build that pipeline from the beginning, and then you can actually reap some of those benefits into the second year. The 24-month period is when most people, when they follow a process and they set their goals, that's when they can start hitting, the 3-digit, the $100,000 mark. And we've done it over and over again, but it doesn't happen by accident. You have to follow this process. You have to stay true to your key performance indicators. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind, and you're not going to hit your numbers. This is what is most important on a daily basis. You have to wake up, have that drive, and make sure your goal is every single day is to get an appointment. Because like I said earlier, my friend Tom Ferry says all the time is you've got the appointments are the currency of top producers. Without appointments, you don't have any money. If you follow this process, you will be successful. So here's what's going to happen. If you follow our process, you're going to get busy, and then the whirlwind of life happens, and making your phone calls is super easy. There's nothing difficult about this, but so is quitting smoking. Anybody can quit smoking for one day, but why do people fail? It's the whirlwind of life, and it's that consistency. Every January, hundreds and thousands of people in the United States join a gym with all the same goal, to lose weight and get in shape. Most of them want to lose weight and get in shape so that they're they're ready for the summertime, for their beach body, maybe for the beach. But why do so many people fail? Is it really physically difficult to eat well and stop drinking or stop smoking for one day? It's really not. Anybody can do it, and most people do it for a few days. It's the consistency that people have trouble with. That's where your why comes in. If I want to lose 30 pounds in 3 months, I can do the math too, and I can make it look real easy. What is that? That's 10 pounds per month, right? And then how much is that per week? 10. If I was to break it down, 10 divided by 4, that's 2.5 per week. And if I divided that by 7 days, that's only 0.35 lbs per day, right? So that's pretty easy. Most people could say anybody could do that. You can, eat less, burn more calories, and you can lose 0.35 pounds in a day. But why is it so hard to lose this 30 pounds? If I went to my trainer and he said, look, Jim, if you want to lose 30 pounds, all you got to do is eat a little bit less, exercise a little bit more, and you can do this, and in 3 months you could have 30 pounds off your belt. But why is that so difficult, and why do people struggle so much with losing weight or are eating right or quitting alcohol or smoking? It's not necessarily that one day that's so difficult. It's the consistency of keeping that up, right? What I would tell you is it's really about your motivation, right? So like if my motivation is to lose 30 pounds in 3 months and I'm just, and my goal is, to have a better body for summertime, that's okay, but that's not a real strong motive. That's not a real strong why. But if I went to a doctor and my doctor said, Jim, if you don't lose 30 pounds in the next 3 months, you're not going to be able to walk your daughter down the aisle when she's ready to get married because you're going to be dead. That is a different motivation, and you're more motivated to do the things that it takes to hit that goal. And so nothing about real estate is it's not hard to make a phone call. Making phone calls is easy, but because it's easy, it's also easy not to do. And it's the days that you don't want to do it, and it's when life gets in the way. It's when coronavirus happens and it's just so easy not to do your work because nobody else is working. Those are the opportunities that you need to be looking at to capitalize when other people aren't working, and you do the work and you do those things that give you the power. Then you're going to end up coming out of ahead, and you'll actually hit your goals stronger and in shorter time. By the way, over 65% of the agents nationally are making less than $25,000 a year. So why do so many people fail? If it's so easy to make phone calls and set appointments, why do people fail? Well, what happens is, to most realtors, and this even happens to the top producers, this is a roller coaster because people do the things that are important when they don't have anything else going on, but then they make their calls, they do their appointments, and once they do that, they get a bunch of closings. But what happens is they take their eye off of those key performance indicators because they say, well, I've got 3 things under contract, I don't have time to make my calls. Well, that's exactly what happens, and then once they have those 3 closings, they have nothing in their pipeline, and they've got to start all over. And then they make their calls, they prospect, go on appointments, and then they get 3 things under contract, and then that falls through the cracks. So this gap right here can be a month or 2. And what happens is the closings that we are having today is from the work we did yesterday. So you end up with this, busy, close, nothing in my pipeline. Busy, close, nothing in my pipeline. And that is not a good way to run a business. What we want is, over time, with prospecting, our calls or appointments, we want a gradual increase in income. And if you focus on your 15 spoke to or conversations per day, that's what's gonna bring you to the top, and it's gonna help you hit your goals. So that's one challenge that most people have. The other challenge that most realtors are going to be fall into is, who do I call? So I want to hit on this, the conversations that I'm talking about, and I want to be real clear about this. This is anybody. This is anybody you're running into, and it could be anything. However, what I consider a conversation in real estate is some conversation that leads to a follow-up. So let me give you a few examples. If I go to our local gym at Red Laurel's, I'm going to run into people that I know every single day. Of course, I can't have the conversations that I want to have with everybody. So sometimes, and every time they're going to ask me, how's the market? And I'm going to answer that as good as I can with whatever timeline I have. Now, when I have more time and I'm really engaging with somebody, and they say, Jim, how's the market? I'm going to say, well, it's really freaking interesting. COVID has been, something that we never expected for 2020, but we started 2020 off with the best January and February that we've ever had. COVID hit, and now, actually, we're ending up real close to where we are. But what are you interested in? Where do you live? You tell me what's happening in your area. And by the way, are you interested in getting interior, exterior photos of homes in your area so that you can keep posted on what's happening in the market, what really matters to you? Because every neighborhood is different, as you know. So that is a conversation that I would then document in my CRM, whatever CRM you're using, put them into your system, set a to-do, which is a follow-up, and how many times do I want to follow? If he's not buying a house, that doesn't matter. I still want to follow up with him because NAR says every person that you know is going to run into 5 people close to them or in their network that's going to move in 12 months. So if that's the case, it doesn't matter if that guy is interested or that girl is interested in real estate or is in the sales cycle right now, because they are all in the sales cycle and they all know 5 people that are going to buy or sell in the next 12 months. So if I want to be the person that they refer to, I have to follow up with that person. And the key to that is, a fair number is, I want to talk to everybody in my sphere, or everybody that I put into my sphere, 4 times per year. But we know if I call them, what is the percentage of them answering the phone? That's right, 25%. So 75% of the time, they're not going to answer the phone. So if I want to talk to somebody 4 times this year, and I'm at a 25% spoke to rate, for 25% of the time I'm successful in getting them on the phone, that means I have to reach out to them 4 times to talk to them once. So 4 times 4, that's 16 calls per year in order to talk to them. Now, if I also have the calls, and then I'm also sending other houses or comps in his neighborhood that pertains to him and to his family, and I'm doing that once per month, and I'm reaching out to him on his birthday, and I'm inviting him to our fundraiser, and I'm also going to go ahead and invite him to our Mardi Gras event. You can see now I'm starting to create a relationship, and that is what needs to happen in order for my friend to be able to recommend me and use me use me for the real estate agent. Because I know if I run into that person at Reds and he's a family friend or an old friend from high school, and he's going to ask me how things going, he's going to refer me, that day. If somebody comes up to him that day and I made a good enough impression and I actually answered the question intelligently and made an impression on my friend about how the market is, which, by the way, most people are being interviewed and they don't even know they're being interviewed. The people who are interviewing them don't even know they're interviewing them. So know your market, know your stats, so that when you have that conversation at your health club and that person actually is ready to be a customer or somebody who's willing to work with you or willing to refer you, we know that my chances of getting that referral are super high there. Let's say this is January, February, March, April. If I run into him and he's willing to give me a referral, that's great. But what happens is life happens. And so the further away I get from this event, my chances of getting a referral go down. So how do we change that? How do we market upstream and be this person's realtor before they need to? And the reason why this goes down is because life happens. Here's Mardi Gras in February or March. You have different events. After a while, they're at the coffee machine and they're talking to a friend who says, "Hey, my sister's moving to town. Do you know a realtor?" And by the time April comes around, they can't think of your name. They know somebody that they might refer you, but they can't think of your name. So you're most likely not going to get that referral. Now, can you get this referral? 100%. If you're the kind of realtor that wants to do a bunch of face-to-face, make good impressions, not use a system, not call people 4 times a year, and just hope that somebody gives you a referral, well, that's great, and that could happen. But if we want to stack the odds in our favor, what do you have to do? Well, right after that meeting, I'm going to text them. "Hey, Tommy, it was really good seeing you the other day. I'm so glad to hear that your family's having a good time. By the way, I know y'all are going to Disney World. We went there a few years ago. Let me give you some tips." Then I send an email. "Hey, Tommy, it was great seeing you the other day at Red Laurel Health Club. You look great, man. The family's exciting. Y'all are going to have a blast at Disney World. And I'm going to go ahead and send you some comps in your neighborhood because you asked about the real estate market. If you see anything that is a surprise to you or you have questions about, just let me know." Then I set him up on an e-alert or whatever your system does, so that they are now getting solds, actives, price changes, under contracts one time a month because I don't want them to unsubscribe. So I only send it one time a month. So they're getting kept up to date what's happening in their real estate world. Then I invite them to our Mardi Gras spot. Then I invite them to our fundraiser that we're doing for Maddie's Footprints. And then I ask them, hey, by the way, we're giving away $1,000 in March to a family in need. I'm just reaching out to you to see if you might know somebody that might be in need. And then all the while I'm calling and I'm texting. They see me in their social media feed with my videos, my market updates. And what am I doing? I'm creating authority and I'm creating trust and I'm becoming top of mind to my friend Tommy, who I ran into at Reds. And so now my chances of getting a referral go up. And that is, my friends, the key to getting more referrals. And that is what we're talking about when we're talking about marketing upstream. So when Tommy's at the coffee station at his work, and he has a friend or that has a brother or sister or a family member that's moving to town, and they say, hey, I'm thinking about buying, or we need to move to Lafayette, Louisiana. Do you know any realtors? Who is Tommy going to recommend? Absolutely me, because I've added so much value to his life as a friend, and it's got to be sincere. This isn't about, hey, I just want to get referrals from my friends. But you've got to set up a system. If you have no system, the first thing you need to do is either join a team with a system or find a broker that has a system that works and is easy and that you're going to use. There's lots of brokerages out there that have systems, but none of their agents use it. And I know this because I'm actually picking up most of those agents' clients because they're not calling them. Over 50% of our transactions are deals that are not first-time home buyers. So that means these people worked with another real estate agent at some point, bought a house, and now they're using our agents for their home sale or purchase. Why is that? It's not because there's lots of competition out there. It's because that agent didn't stay in front of them. This is what happened. They had the closing, and now their chances for referrals significantly go down and mine go up because I'm marketing to them. And it's not your typical marketing strategy. It's really a personal rapport building strategy is what we're trying to create. So, and if you look at, going back to, let's look at the sales cycle, okay? We talked about the roller coaster, but this is the sales cycle as well. We're going to talk about leads. So we're talking about those conversations with the people who aren't necessarily buying are just as important. So there are no bad leads. You can talk to anybody. But when I'm at Red Laurel's and I say, hey, Tom, it's great seeing you, and he says the same and he waves and we go our separate ways, that's not what I'm talking about. A conversation is a conversation that you have with intention, and you're present and you're there, and there's a follow-up. So the conversation could just be about Disney World. It doesn't matter. But if I have a follow-up and I put them into my system and now I have a plan to continue to market to them, that's what I'm talking about for actually a conversation or a spoke to. So it can be anybody. It can be anybody you run into. And again, is Tommy going to buy a house at Red Laurel's or in my health club? Absolutely not. I have to follow up, which means I'm going to call him. And 75% of the time, he's not going to answer the phone. So I'm going to have to call him 4 times, typically on average, to get him on the phone 1 time. I'm going to follow up with text, email, social media, and put him into a system. That's all you have to do. So when we say 15 people a day, that's what I'm talking about. That could be your family, friends. Some people don't have family, friends. You might be moving from another area to your area. It doesn't matter. Get on the phone and start talking to somebody. Join a group. If your kids are in sports, when you're at the events, have a conversation with somebody. Put them into your system. Follow up with them. The new leads, the same thing. If you have a bunch of leads coming in, you can't just talk to them that one time and expect them to, roll over and just start working with you and maybe send you, your closing check. You've got to put in the time and effort. So that brings us to this sales cycle, right? So You know, there was a good coach that showed us this, and I think it's relevant in this case. So, you know, everybody, this is closing day, okay? This is day after closing day. So, a lot of agents, day after closing day. You know, the average homeowner is going to move, you know, somewhere between 7 and 10 years. So 7 and 10 years. So a lot of agents, I hear them complaining about leads and who to call. It doesn't matter. If you're calling anybody in your transaction, they're in this sales cycle somewhere. You know, if the average homeowner buys 7 to 10, in our platform, we have over 80,000 leads that we're following up with currently. And a lot of the calls, because we have so many, by the time we get to them, they've already purchased. Well, I've heard, you know, people say, oh, well, I don't know why I'm calling these leads. You know, they've already bought. Well, this lead is in the sales cycle. He or she may not be ready to buy tomorrow, but they're going to probably buy in the next 7 to 10 years. And on top of that, they're going to know 5 other people that they can refer you to. So in a 7-year period, let's just do the calculation real quick. So let's just go for 10. So 10 years, you know, 50 people for 10 years. So that's 50 referrals that you could potentially capitalize on, even if they're not going to buy for the next 10 years. See, everybody, this is 90 days. So everybody is trying to capture all of the leads in the last 9 days. My company spends tens of thousands of dollars to try to capture the people who are looking for real estate or starting their search for real estate. And we want to capture them because we want to catch them 90 days out. Well, there's also 16 billion other people or dollars being spent to capture these people. Now, we're all looking for these now buyers. But the day after this person closes, guess what? They still can refer you 50 people over the next 10 years. If you multiply that by, 10 people, now we're talking about, major opportunities. And those opportunities will not happen if you don't follow up. But if you say, oh, you just bought, I'm sorry. Well, if you need something in the future, let me know. That's not the way to handle that call. The call should sound something like this. Oh, Tommy, where did you buy? Fantastic. Oh, you bought in Cypress Cove? How amazing is that neighborhood? I know they do an incredible Halloween. I've been there with my family. You're going to enjoy it. By the way, I've got some really good data for that neighborhood, and I know you just bought, but it's a pretty big investment, right? Would you want to keep up to date on what's happening in Cypress Cove as far as property values? I'd be glad to set you up on an email list with my VIP customers, and I'll send you everything that hits the markets, interior, exterior photos of your neighbors' houses when they hit the market, price changes, price adjustments, and sold. Would you find that useful? So to sum up what we're talking about, when you're having the conversations, that could be anybody. Like I said, everybody you talk to has the potential to give you a referral. And it's up to us to go out and make sure we're top of mind awareness. And of course, we're going to have to provide amazing service. So, going back to where we were, a couple of things that I want to point out. If you want to be successful in real estate, we already know, 50,000 your first year is what you should expect. Your second year, after your 24 months, I'm hoping, at least on my team, my job is to get you to 100,000. And I can do that, and I use the math. Now, your ratios change, so you actually by talking to the same amount of people, maybe just increasing your conversation slightly, you're going to make more money after your 12 months because now you've got you're not missing 4 months of work. So the expectation is if you do the work and you make the calls and you talk to the people, then you're going to set the appointments. If you're not setting the appointments and you're talking to the people, what's wrong? Well, what you're saying is wrong. You're not following the scripts. But if you're talking to the people, you're following the scripts, and you're setting the appointments, those are going to lead to closings. And so what you really need to realize is that to expect at least $50,000, you've got to do $50,000 of work. I'm constantly hearing people say, Jim, I want to make $100,000. I sit down with them. I tell them what it is. Look, you're going to have to talk to 18 people per day, and which leads to a follow-up and put them in your system. But that's the goal. Well, what happens is they don't do that. You know, if you don't do 18 people today, how many people do you have to do tomorrow? That's right. You're going to have to do 36. If you don't do 36 tomorrow, how many do you have to do? So it starts to compound where there's no way you can make up for it. You know, losing weight is a perfect example. If my goal is to lose 0.3 pounds every single day, and you know I went off my diet and I didn't make 0.32 today, well, tomorrow how much do I have to lose? And so you get to a point where you can't make up for it. We want to avoid that by doing little chunks. We don't want to have to work real hard and then give up and then get closings and then start all over again. That's what we want to avoid. All right, so if we know that your first year, you know, if your goal is to make $50,000, you've got to talk to 17 people in order to set 17 people every day in order to set 2 appointments up per week. And that's so that you can close 17 transactions for the year. After your first 12 months, where you have your first full year, what does the next 12 months look like if you want to make $100,000? So if you want to make $100,000 and not $50,000, is it possible in your first 12 months? It is. It's going to be a lot more work, but if you were able to double your numbers, so if your goal is to talk to 15 people a day to get 2 appointments per week, you need to make 4 appointments per week in order to hit $100,000. So that means you're going to have to talk to 30 people per day. It's very possible, but you're going to have to do the work and stick with it, and it's math. But let's say at the end of your first 12 months, your goal is to hit $100,000 in 24 months. Remember, my job as the broker and as your trainer and as a business partner is I want to take a 10-year career and I want to get you there in 24 months. There's no other way to do it than actually put in the work. So if we're going to condense a 10-year career, which can you be successful without following our system? 100%. You can actually get lucky a lot, and it's going to take a long time to build that platform. And for me, it took me 8 years to really build that up, doing it the wrong way. As soon as I was able to focus down, I'm able to take a brand new agent, bring them onto our team, set up their matrix based on their goals, and we're able to hit their goals every single time. And when they don't, it's not because they did the work. It's because they didn't do the work. It's not because they didn't have the opportunity. It's not because they didn't have the potential to do the work. We all have the potential to be successful in real estate. What we do is not extremely difficult, but you have to do it consistently. And, you know, so why do most people fail, right? So if, you know, I believe it's because, you know, we are bad bosses to ourselves. We don't hold ourselves accountable. So let's say, for instance, I was going to tell you, you know, okay, you're going to, you know, I'm going to pay you. You opened up a retail store, and I'm going to pay you $100,000. But here's the catch. You need to, for you to get $100,000, I'm going to require you to talk to 20 of our past customers and every single day. And that's part of the job. So I'm going to pay you $100,000. The main job that I want you to do is you need to reach out to 20 different people, put them into our system every single day. It could be past customers, future customers, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to be tracking this. And every single day, you don't call or reach out to or have a conversation with 20 of our past customers, then guess what? I'm taking $500 away every day that you don't do that. Are you going to do this work? Most people are going to say, yes, I would call 20 people. Now, I'm going to add something to this, because this is where it gets challenging and where it starts to get complicated. Because if I tell you, I said, look, I'm going to pay you $100,000. Your job, your main job, your key performance indicator is you got to talk to 20 people every single day. If you don't talk to 20 people, you're going to lose $500. However, I know that when you talk to 20 people a day, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to get busy. You're going to get more people into the store. When more people come into the store, you're going to have to order more inventory. You're going to have to work with more customers. You're going to have more checkouts. So I realize, as your boss, that when you do the job that brings in the money, that brings in people, your other job is going to get even more busier. But I don't care. What I care about is the pipeline, and I want to keep it going. So you can't just call 20 people, have a bunch of customers come in, and then stop calling, and then take care of all those customers, and then now next week we got to start all over again. No. For $100,000, you got to talk to 20 people every single day. That's going to produce more work, more activities, but you have to find the time to continue to call 20 people every single day. And it's the same thing in real estate. We're all going to get busy. So the appointments and the closings aren't the problem. The problem is, to continue to call the people when you have appointments and closings. So you will get, when you start prospecting the way we're talking about, you're going to get appointments, you're going to get opportunities. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is you start getting busy, and then you get success, and you get, we have somebody in our office, she's less than 24 months in the business. She's got 8 closings under her that are pending right now. You think she's pretty busy? She absolutely is, but we're still focused on she's got to call 20 people every single day. And when you put that as a priority, then you're successful. That's when you get the work done. When you don't put it as a priority, and it's got to be a non-negotiable, you got to be pig-headed disciplined. That has to happen every single day. It's got to be in your calendar, because when it doesn't happen, tomorrow you're going to have 40 more people, and I'm taking away $500 every single day. So you better have that done. If you don't do it, you're losing money every day. And it's the same thing in real estate. And I don't think most realtors have that mindset. They don't understand the matrix. They don't understand what their KPIs are. If you're talking to a broker and you tell them that you want to make $100,000, and that broker can't tell you how many calls that is on their system, or he doesn't know how many appointments you have to go on, you seriously need to consider a different team and a different opportunity. Because if you can't tell me how to make $100,000 in this business in your market, you're talking to the wrong person. It's not about commission, because guess what, guys? 100% of 0 equals 0. And when you don't have the tools for you to meet your potential, this is what you're going to be making, or you're going to be struggling and making under $25,000. But when you do the things that work and you treat yourself like an employee, then that's when you're going to prioritize, and then that's when you're going to get, hit your goals. It doesn't happen automatically. So what does the job entail? I hope that I was pretty clear today. You've got, we know that your first 12 months you're going to make around $50,000 if you do the following. Can you make more? Absolutely. But let's just say you did the following. We know you need 17 closings at $200,000 and average 3%. Now, your average commission, you get to dictate what your commission is, not anybody else. And if anybody tells you differently, then you need to talk to a different person. But we don't have to work for any set amount. You get to decide how much you want to work. If you're on our team, I want to work for 3%. I'm not taking 2.5%. Otherwise, I'll go find another opportunity. I'm not going to take 1.5% just because the other seller is working with a discount broker. Our office policy at Keaty Real Estate, my policy is 3%. Every office is different. There's nobody setting any commissions. And that's actually by law. So you get to decide how much you work. We're going to work for 3%. That's $6,000. And, half of that is $3,000. So if you want to make $3,000 transactions and we know that you need 17 closings. Well, we know in order to do 17 closings, we know that takes 60 calls per day to set up 15 conversations and to set up 2 appointments per week. So this is everything, guys. Obviously, you have to provide a stellar customer experience. Otherwise, you're not going to get any more business. So although I know when you do this, you're going to get really busy, you still have to do this. This is the key to everything in real estate. There's no way to skip. This is the shortcut. If you want a shortcut in your real estate career and you want to take a 10-year career and turn it into 24 months, it's 100% possible. It has nothing to do with the competition or having too many other agents in the business. It's all about, are you going to do the work? And you have to do it consistently. And so, basically, here's the job. Every day you wake up in the morning and your goal is to get an appointment that morning. If you don't get an appointment, then your next goal is, you got to make sure you have at least talk to 15 people. Well, if you can't talk to 15 people, you got to make sure you've dialed 60 calls. Here's what you can't let happen. You can't say, I want $100,000 and do $30,000 work. That doesn't work. And that's what I normally see in what's happening in the real estate industry right now. Everybody wants a great career. Everybody wants a flexible schedule. Everybody wants to make $100,000 plus $100,000. But when they don't make it, why not? It's because they're doing $25,000, $30,000 work. Instead of talking to 15 people today, 5 days a week, they're talking to 3. And guess what? Nobody does the work and doesn't track it. Like, if you actually are doing this and you're talking to 15 people every day, I know you're going to track it. It's like when I'm trying to lose weight and I did what I was supposed to do today, I'm tracking it. The only days that I don't track, it's because I didn't do what I said I was going to do. So that's the days that, I'm not putting in my numbers and I'm not putting in what's happening. And it's because I didn't do the work. Nobody does the work and doesn't track. Because when you do the work or when you make a score, you want that. We're just humans. We want to put that on our scoreboard that we completed it. So do the work, get an appointment today. If you didn't get an appointment today, I want to make sure you called 15 people. Now, talk to 15 people. If you talk to 2 people and you get 2 appointments, congratulations, take the rest of the day off, go get an ice cream cone. But when you don't have 2 appointments, you better have at least talked to 15 people. And if you didn't talk to 15 people, I want to see that you at least attempted to work and called 60 people. Now, you can leverage technology like we do. We use different things that are able to make these calls in a short amount of time. But I'm going to tell you, in order to do this, you have to work 12 hours per week on prospecting. In order to hit these numbers 5 days a week, you should be spending 12 hours prospecting a week. So, some people work 40 hours, some people work 50 hours. If you're going to plan on working 50 hours because you want to make the money that you want to make, then you need to schedule your prospecting time as non-negotiable. You cannot miss your time. So if I'm doing 5 a week, you've got to be doing 2.5 hours, 2 hours a day plus to do it. And there's strategies to that as well. Put yourself in a position where you're actually going to talk to more people. the best time to talk to people are early in the morning, midday, and then the evening. If you're one of those people who consistently does your prospecting time between 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're sabotaging yourself because you don't want to talk to enough people subconsciously, even though you say you do. So put yourself in a position to do it and make the calls, and actually when the calls are made, you're talking to people. So that's my expectations. I hope you guys learned something, but this is how you can be madly successful in real estate, and you can create your own time and your own schedule when you implement this system. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If y'all have any questions, just reach out to me. I'm Jim Keaty, and this is Keaty Academy.